Welcome everyone. Crystal, Ep.4 of the Investors
Yeah.
Corner
Let's
with
go.
Crystal and Aneel. Welcome guys. Welcome everyone. Glad to be here. We're getting in a groove now, Crystal. We're doing good.
I think so. I think we're getting used to this. I mean, I'm still a little bit, I'm learning. I'm still learning,
I
but
think after
more used to it.
right. I think after Ep.5, we're officially podcasters. Okay. All right. So let's give us at least five, or maybe Ep.10. No, you know what the rate? There's actually a statistic out there that most podcasts don't last after more than 5 episodes. Did you
Wow.
guys know that? Right.
No.
And so, as long as we cross the 5 episode mark, not that we're going to be only 5 episodes, I think we're going to be good. All right. So Crystal, let's get started. I'm super excited for our guest today. To be honest, I think you two actually are some of the first people I met in Dallas, and probably my so far favorite people I've met in Dallas. Okay, and Sika definitely. Sorry for anyone else that I met in Dallas, but definitely some of the one of the most important people that I have met as I made this change in Dallas has been Sika. So I do want to welcome our guest today, is Sika Inyang. All right, we are the Investors Corner. We dive into deep strategies that really empower your financial journey, right? And so why I'm thrilled today is to have our special guest, which his name is Sika Inyang. He's also known as the connector, and I'm telling you, the guy is a connector. Like, listen, we're connected right now, and he's connecting me many folks too. So he definitely lives to that name. He has over a decade of experience in the financial sector. Sika actually specializes in a very fascinating, and a lot of people need to know about, really tax-free investment strategies, creative wealth management, and utilizing life insurance policies. Okay, he's taken kind of that vast experience in wealth management and is now making waves at Max Life and the PHP agencies. Sika, my man, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you for having me, man. They said that they saved the best for fourth, so there's that.
Yes, he'll always be number 4. Crystal, he will. He will. He definitely will be. We'll always remember it. So, Sika, I have diverse background. Crystal does as well. I want to start with, because me and Crystal was actually like, where's Sika from? Like, we didn't know. So let's start there, man. Let's start with the beginning. Sika, can you share with us and start with your journey into the financial sector and really what inspired you to kind of get into these tax-free strategies and really help people? Because I know that's the foundation of what you do.
Right. No, 100%, 100%. So, first off, I'm a first generation immigrant. I'm Nigerian. My parents came straight from Nigeria. My brothers, I know when you say go back to the beginning, you don't necessarily mean that, but I like to talk about it just because it is part of
Yeah.
how I even got here. My
Absolutely.
mom was really big on education. So, for us, just, even growing up, low to middle income, she made sure that me and my brothers went to the library and made sure that we didn't get to come home until we had at least 2 books. And then when we got home,
Wow.
we had at least 3 days to finish all those books, or else,
One of those
So
moms.
it was a different time. It was a different time, but
Sure.
it did help me to become, just in hindsight, it did help me to become as intuitive as I am. I love to read. I've been reading, 600-page books since I was, man, as far back as I can remember. This is like before Harry Potter, so I'm dating myself. But I would say since I was maybe in like the fourth, fifth grade, something like that. And so just fast forward, I've always kind of had a thirst for knowledge. Um, what got me here, I actually just fell into the role. So my first role or job within the financial sector was with Bank of America, oddly enough.
Okay.
And it was at a time when everybody was losing their mortgages because, the economy was doing pretty bad. So this is 2008. So I had a crash course.
Bad time to be a banker. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Hey,
it was
that's
crazy.
right when we got into it too, 2008.
Yeah,
For
it was
sure.
it was
Yep.
a interesting time. It was an
Yep.
interesting time. It was like there was a what's this guy's name? Bruce Willis. There's a Bruce Willis movie called, I think it was Armageddon or something like that. But I just remember this scene where they're just like counting down. They're like, well, the world's about to end. and they're just seeing it in real time, right? That's just literally what 2008 felt like, just in real time
Yeah.
coming in. I'm seeing like desks missing. I'm looking at the ticker symbols. Everything's red. Barack Obama's trying to figure out. Well, they're talking about if he's gonna, bail out the car companies and the banks, and yeah, it was crazy. But um, in that moment, I recognized like how little I knew about finances. I knew what houses were. I knew what money was, kind of, right? But as I saw people losing it, I was like, dang, I'm actually like very
Mm.
unintelligent. I'm just here existing, right?
Wow.
Especially when I found out how people were losing their homes. I'm like, oh, wait, you didn't really own your home? That's what a loan was, right?
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no. So it was an interesting time, but because of that, I started investigating. And so I just ended up coming across one of my very first, I can say, official mentors, and he's also one of my best friends um, that I've ever had. He was a real estate investor, oddly enough. So he was also working at Bank of America. He was getting into real estate investing, him and a buddy of ours. And what they did was fix and flips. At the time, it was pretty easy and it was lucrative
Yeah.
because again, everybody's losing their homes. Um, but what we found was that one of their investors, this is something I recognized later on, um, one of their key investors was giving them their money through their life insurance policy. So it was a different strategy. Yeah, he was pretty much lending them money to be able to do all their deals through his life insurance policy. Excuse me. But just because of Bank of America, because of dealing with my friend, and then on another end, I ended up being in the debt settlement space. So I was helping
Wow.
clients with high balances on credit cards. So I
Wow.
learned,
Wow.
Really good at.
yeah, I just learned that every industry has life insurance tied to it. And let me say it
Sure.
differently. Every industry has some type of insurance tied to it. It was a funny thing to find out that whenever a person's credit cards charge off, the credit card company activates their insurance policy and gets everything paid off. So they've already been making their money. They made interest.
You know what's interesting.
Crazy.
You know what's
Yeah.
interesting with a cross between both of you guys is Crystal got into real estate at that crash,
Hmm.
right? She got into real estate in 2008, and you were in the banking space in 2008. So what
Yeah.
I think that's interesting is when you see these cycles in both these spaces, when you see the worst times, you can recognize okay what the good times are, right? And it prepares you for those good times because you see,
Uh
listen,
huh.
it can't get any worse than this. But that's
Yeah.
why being in that, being both starting in the space when those cycles were down, it's probably a great foundation for when you actually see it, right, Crystal?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny. Our stories are very parallel. My husband was working, he was a financial advisor at JP Morgan Chase,
Mm.
and Jamie Dimon, just with the big bailout that happened, ended up getting one of the largest bonuses. I think it was like
Hmm.
$33 million, but their quotas kept going up and up. And he literally came home one day and goes, babe, I'm going to quit my job. Like, I don't have to do this anymore. And at that time, we were getting into rentals and
Hmm.
learning about those things and going, man, there's got to be more than this. But it was a sink or swim time. And
Yeah.
it was a time that the amount of, I guess, knowledge that you learn through that and gain through that, there's no college that can teach you that.
Yeah.
It
There's nothing
was
100%.
like trial by fire.
right.
There's nothing about learning when the chips are low, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Tatika, I wanted to, you tried to drop a little bit of teaser before, but I want to get into it here. So, for people that are not familiar, can you explain some of these like tax-free investment strategies and how they work? Like you mentioned a little bit of life insurance, but let's dive into that. Can you explain what a
Yeah.
tax-free
Yeah.
investment strategy would look like?
Yeah, no, 100%. So, right now we specialize in life insurance, specifically with the IULs and things like that, permanent policies, things that have cash value attached to it, pretty much. Life insurance is a really good vehicle to use because of tax code 7702. It
Okay.
just makes it to where things or money earned within a life insurance vehicle can't be taxed.
Wow.
And so you get to do a lot of interesting things, use a lot of interesting strategies within this product. such as arbitrage. I love talking to real estate investors just because they're the most open-minded, freest people. Like honestly,
Okay.
when it comes to the real estate
Yeah.
like sector, and you, Crystal, I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure you can agree with this. You got your real estate, your realtors, and then your real estate investors. Well, the difference between a realtor and a real estate investor is just that a real estate investor has so many options for solving a problem, right?
Oh,
You can do
that's
buy and
interesting.
hold, you can do fix and flicks, you can do seller financing, you can do lease option, you can do whatever, right? For the most part, within the confines of the law, you can do almost whatever, right? But when you're a realtor, you just have two options: buy and sell.
Right.
Then
Yep.
True.
you're beholden to the government on how you can even do that. And so,
Right.
just as
Right.
an investor, you just have so many more options when it comes to, hey, what's this person's problem and how do we solve it? Um, I like dealing with them for that reason because in the insurance space, it's relatively the same thing. It's like, what is
Right.
your problem? Which most people's problem is, how do I save on taxes? How do I make it to where Uncle Sam isn't taking my money and taking it from my beneficiaries? And how do we solve that problem? So, when I'm talking to real estate investors, one strategy is arbitrage.
Okay.
And you know what the buzzword in today's time is infinite banking, right? Yeah.
What?
There
Yes.
you go.
This, this,
I was going to talk
this,
about the. There you
this,
Yes.
go. There you
this.
Speaking
go.
of
I look,
reading,
Crystal. You all right? I like
speaking
Crystal.
of reading, right.
We're gonna meet. We're gonna
Yeah.
Yeah,
meet
no, hundred
really
Speaking of
percent. We
soon.
got to do it
reading,
now. It's too
yeah.
late. It's locked
Talk
in.
about
You
that.
and some
Talk
followers.
about
We got to
that.
get together.
Yes, for sure. I
I
was
got
like,
so
when I
many of those
found
books though.
out,
That's the funny thing. Oh man, I'm in the office right now, but I need you to see my library. I got so many of those books. Oh man, I
oh,
love it. I love it.
Okay,
awesome.
so for me, I
We
don't
we
have
want to
these
hear and
books.
glean more.
So
Yeah.
I don't have these books. Tell me, I started The Power of Zero. I still got to finish it. But
Mm.
talk to me about this infinite banking because I'm hearing a lot about that. So what's that concept if you can break it down from a 3,000 feet level, 30,000 feet level?
Yeah, so it's essentially just being your own bank. Like just to
Okay.
super simplified, it's just that. If you think about banks, all they do is service debt, right? So
Okay.
whenever you give money to a bank, all they're saying is that we owe you that money back,
Okay.
right? The thing that you don't know is that they do things like BOLI, right? Essentially, they take the money, they lend it out to somebody else. So I put $100 into
Right.
the bank. Neil, you go to the bank and you say, I need $100. They take my money and lend it out to you with interest,
Oh, wow.
right?
Wow.
And essentially, they just continue to do that over and over again. So whenever you go to an ATM and put $100 in, and when you get the $100 back, it's not your money; it's somebody else's money. That's just kind of what it all
Okay.
boils down to, right? And so the concept of infinite banking is just that. It's just playing the games that the banks are playing, but just with life insurance. And so, for example, let's say
Interesting.
that I want to purchase a home, right? I want to purchase a property, not a home. Let's say I want to purchase a property. Property is $100,000. That's not likely in any case, sense of the sense of the case nowadays. But just let's
For
say it
sure.
is $100,000, right? Instead of going to the bank and borrowing that $100,000 from them, not making really any money off that money until I've allowed the property to appreciate or anything like that. One strategy that I could do is I could borrow from my life insurance policy. That life insurance
Oh,
policy, and just why you would do it, the life insurance company is going to lend you the money that's in that policy. Okay. It's not the
wow.
money that's in it that's being used, it's the money that they're lending to you. The benefit of that is that while your money's sitting there gaining up to, let's say in a good market it's like 9.2 or something like that. All right, because that's
Okay.
on average when things are really good, that's probably where you're going to cap out at.
Okay.
While your money's sitting there making that residuals or making that interest, you're also able to, and I wish the screen was bigger because I'm using my hands, but you can't see it, but it is big. So let's say on the right side your money's earning interest, and on the left side you're doing your deals. Okay,
Okay.
you do your deals, you make your money, you fix and flip, whatever. Let's say that you make $50,000, and now you got $150,000. You just take that money, put it back into your life insurance policy, and then you wash, rinse, and repeat. The reason why this matters is because from the investing space, a lot of investors want to go into the lending space. Like a lot
Mhm.
of people don't want to just keep having to do fix and flips. They're a headache. Oftentimes, when you're dealing with tenants, depending on the state that you live in, that could be a headache as well. And so you would rather just be the person who holds the money and lends the money out, because that's the person who does the least amount of work but gets the most amount of the asset. So if you
Right.
lend out $100,000 and they don't pay you back, you get a house and you've gotten the interest payments.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if you want to become a lender, you just use your life insurance policy to lend money out. Now you have collateral on their homes, and you get interest in two places. You get interest off the loan you gave out, and you still get interest collecting on the money that's in your life insurance policy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
All of that's tax free, by the way.
right.
When you borrow that, all of that's
right.
tax free, by the way.
And
Yeah.
so, Crystal,
Now,
go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say the concept when you were talking about, you use the word infinite banking. That's what I think most people are more familiar with.
Mhm.
But why I feel like it's just now, I mean, it's been around for such a long time, but why
Yeah.
is it just now you feel like gaining some more traction? I don't know. Even when we've talked to a few people, even recently, they're going, no life insurance, no whole life or whatever. It may be like that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Why do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just, I guess, share more with us about that and what you feel like has been a pivotal change in people's eyes being opened
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't learn about it until much more recently. I just knew about, HELOCs and refinancing and using
Right.
that money. I just like anybody else in this room, you probably read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
whoa, debt is what you're supposed to have. Right.
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 But I think that, at the end of the day, these strategies allow for little to no taxes to be taken. Right? Can't say no taxes because there are pre-tax dollars that go into the policies, right?
Mhm.
But you get to minimize the amount of taxes that come out, which, putting my tinfoil hat on, just allows you to be that much more free, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And so I think that that's a strategy that doesn't benefit the government, doesn't benefit the banks, and so most people
Sure.
don't talk about it. Most people will tell you about their financial, nothing against financial advisors because they're all needed, but most people will talk about the stock market most people talk about the stock market before they'll talk about life insurance.
Do
And
you
I
think
think
there's
that
any?
it
Do you
is,
think there's?
yeah, I think it
Go
is
ahead.
by
Do you think
design. There's nothing.
Right.
Life insurance isn't the only thing that's out there that you need to have. You need to have your life insurance policies. You have to be in have a stock portfolio. I prefer individual stock portfolios. If you're going to invest riskily at all, just put your money into the S&P 500. It's never been beaten. Let it sit there. It's going to make money, right? You want to have properties, things like that.
Right.
But the underpinning for all of that is life insurance. And the reason I say that is because that's what the banks do. The banks don't invest in CDs; they invest in life insurance. And anybody
Right.
who's talking about this can Google this. Bank of America, Chase, all the big banks, they invest heavily in life insurance policies. The second reason, as far as what the shift might have been, personally speaking, what I've noticed is that in every era of a recession, people start to try to figure out, okay, how do I make money, right?
Oh, wow.
During
Good point.
2008, real estate investing became huge in Dallas. I don't know about everywhere else, but it became crazy in Dallas,
Yeah.
right?
We were in Houston and same.
Yeah, and people from California were moving down
Yep.
here, and they were buying 2, 3, 4 properties. People from other places were moving down, and they're buying 2, 3, 4 properties, right? Um, as far as at the time, I remember that's when I used to see Robert Kiyosaki's name popping up consistently, right? Because real estate was a thing.
Yeah.
Fast forward, we had COVID. Well, if you think about COVID was what? It was cryptocurrency and it was stock trading. Everybody became a day trader. Everybody got into crypto because everybody had time. They were trying to, they had time. They were trying to figure out, okay, how do I maximize my time while I'm at home still working, right?
That was
now
us
it's more,
too.
yeah, exactly. It was me too. Yeah, it was me too. I was a day trader at the time. I made a pretty good amount of money, and I was like, you know what, this is kind of risky. I remember one day I made, so there's two pivotal moments for me. I made $16,000 in it was like maybe 4 or 5 minutes, And I was like, oh, this is legit. I was like, this is crazy. And then
That's
I
like,
ended up losing like 8. And I was like,
yeah.
I'm gonna get a heart attack. I gotta stop. I was like, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah, and it
That's
was
crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, there's these cycles. You're so such a great point that there are times where like these things are hot. Like NFTs were big and now zero. There's big those cryptocurrencies surge.
Mhm.
And I think you're right. There's market conditions and things that feed and change people's investment thoughts, what they're thinking about, what they're wanting to invest in, what they're even
Mhm.
going out to search knowledge on investing in. And it's going back to another point you said. There's a lot of strategies that people were just keeping close to their chest. I think the hyper
Mm-hmm.
wealthy, right?
Yep.
The people
Sure.
that had the money to hot, to begin these taxes. Like, listen, we want to keep these close to our chest. I
Yep.
thought the same thing about the note investing that Crystal got me into, right? It was like, hey, but I think, with the rise of social media, more education out there, and like you said, more people wanting to be free, and also taxes rising. Hey, find more ways to not pay Uncle Sam. Hey, listen, when I hit
Mhm.
another tax bracket, I was like, oh, really?
Yep.
I was like, you make more,
That
they
part.
take more, So people have to jump when they start. People have to get to those levels. People just don't jump and start making that money. But when they hit those tax levels, they start looking and searching for these opportunities. And so I think there's a lot more knowledge there about that. So, Krista, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, my husband day traded for over a year,
Hmm.
crypto as well.
Yeah.
So it's just funny the
Strong
Listen,
parallels.
man.
crypto time is tough
Strong
because
Yeah,
the
man.
people.
That thing will have you you'll have some highs and lows real quick. Like
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
So,
yeah.
and so
Uh,
circling back to it, so if let's say I'm an investor, that's looking into these options, like what is if you sit down with an investor, he has a portfolio, he wants to become the bank, and I think we're going to continue with, I think we'll continue the point on this infinite banking and becoming a lender because I think that was interesting for us. When we first connected, right? We were in the land business. We are acquiring land, we're subdividing it, and then we're seller financing it back to our end buyers, right? And you go
Hmm.
to me like, hey, Neil, do you know, do you know that you could create this policy where we can then lend this money out and then basically get the money back that we're lending from, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
in a you of course explain it a little bit better, but you get what I'm saying. Like we can become the bank and actually finance them back and not even put the money up. The money works for us in both ways,
right.
and you
Yeah.
become, like you said, become that lender. And so that was fascinating to me. So talk to me about someone that wants to take this next step. They may be investing in real estate. They have some holdings. They may even have some IRAs and other traditional investments. When you sit down with someone, what are the first initial steps you take when you look at their portfolio? Where do you start with them?
So we start with their goals.
Okay.
So what is it that you're actually wanting to do? Because oftentimes you'll find that because these are new concepts, and I'm not just talking about what I do, I'm just talking about oftentimes, you talked about notes, right? Oftentimes you're barely scratching the surface on what you're doing and the possibilities that are involved with what you're doing. And because of all that, you're kind of just trying to get all your thoughts together, lay them out so that it makes a lot of sense, right? And so that's kind of where we start, which is like, okay, what's in your head? What are you actually trying to do? And then how do we get, that gap? How do we get you from where you started and where you're trying to go and then fill in that gap? And then from
Hmm.
there, we kind of map out, okay, so these are some of the strategies that you might want to consider when it comes to getting from point A to, point B.
Nice.
What
Do
are
you,
some misconceptions that I guess that you have with investing in this way that you have with real estate investors or
Oh,
just you're laughing.
yeah, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Because there's a lot. I'm doing one right now.
Well,
It's funny. Doing
yeah,
one.
I want to hear them because
Yeah.
it's interesting to. This is so foreign, for a lot of us hearing it for the first time, and then once we understand it, your mind is blown.
Hmm.
But I could see where people are laying out all the reasons why they shouldn't do it
Hmm.
and what the misconceptions are. So let's
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah.
Get
So
it out.
one of the primary misconceptions that are out there just because of TikTok and Instagram is that you
Mm.
can use these strategies for $100 a month. Not true.
Okay.
If you're a 20-year-old kid and you think you're going to become a millionaire doing this, it's not going to happen. Right? It is what it is. And this is me saying, this is a guy who has two, I have two policies on family members, on like my kids, right? They're going to have a pretty good amount of money by the time that they're in graduation age. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm like, not $100 a month, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the number one misconception, that the buy-in for these strategies is relatively low, and it's just not. It's like
Yeah.
everything, it's income based, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people get
Okay.
caught up in that idea that real estate investing is another big one, right? Real estate investors who are new to the game think that OPM just means that literally you'll never have to use a dollar of your money, and that's just not
Mm.
true. You're gonna have to
Yep.
use
Right.
something. Now, there's
Right.
strategies that make it to where you don't have to use a lot. Sometimes there are strategies, if you're lucky enough, to where you don't have to use anything. But on average, on a balance of probabilities, you're going to have some type of money available to access. And so that's like the number one for MySpace. That it's easy to get into. The second misconception, which is kind of an frustrating one, is how long it takes for you to access your money.
Mm.
So
Okay. Okay.
if you do this properly, if you're working with a individual who can properly structure it, somebody who's knowledgeable in the industry and not somebody who's just trying to get a quick buck.
Right.
Generally speaking, for investors, if you have $30,000 available and you deposit a minimum $30,000 for the strategy that I just talked about earlier, you'll be able to get that money back upon approval and everything, typically within about 24 to 48 hours. So that turnaround
You
time is
said
extremely quick.
24 to 48 hours.
Correct. And again, this
Wow.
is if you're
Wow.
using it with the right person who has the right
Right.
carrier.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not
Okay.
making any guarantees for any of that.
No,
I'm just saying
sure,
in
sure.
general. Like, so for
Yeah.
instance,
Okay.
I've done I've done
Is
this
that
for myself.
100% back, or is that 90,
It's 90.
75%?
It's 90.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. With our carriers, with one of our
Okay.
carriers, they're the number one. They're the number one in the industry when it comes to um, indexed universal life policies. It would be about 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
I say that, and again, that's upon approval and everything that has to go, because it is a life insurance policy. They're managing risk, things like that. But
Sure.
that's pretty much what you would be able to access. I'm saying that because of how I've done it for myself. And there's another guy that I interviewed on a podcast late last year. His name is Anthony Williams, big time forex guy. He's done it for his policies as well. We're actually going to be doing another interview with him pretty soon. But long story
Cool.
short, an interesting way that he used it for himself. Well, he used it often, but one way that he used it was he ended up buying I want to say it was an AP. So he put money into the life insurance policy, borrowed against it, and then purchased an AP. The
Hmm.
reason why he did it, now don't quote me on the AP, but I just know that it's a luxury item. The reason
Right.
that he did it was because luxury items, as far as certain watches, they appreciate, guaranteed.
Right.
Oh.
And so he was like, well,
Right.
it made sense to me, because not only am I making interest on my life insurance policy, even though I borrowed up against it, but the item that's now on his wrist is also appreciating. So he's getting double his money. So I was like, interesting.
Nice.
Well,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Now
That's
that's
just me.
Yeah.
creative. Hey, hey, use
Really
life
creative. I
insurance
love
to
it.
fund your AP. Now that's creative.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was like, I never would have thought about doing that. But again, it's one of those strategies that you can use when you're free enough or freed up to be able to think of ways to solve problems.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's the mindset of thinking that way and
Yeah.
having the tool to even do it, right?
Right.
Because
Hmm.
he put that mechanism in place, had the foresight enough to do that, he was able to unlock these avenues to do it, right? He
Hmm.
was able to see, and that path cleared for him. Like, listen, that life insurance policy that I created, you know what, that AP, he put those two and two
Yeah.
together, and so it's having the tool and the knowledge and actually, putting the action into to put that into place is the only way you can even open those doors, right? And even
Yep.
think about luxury watch through your life insurance policy. That's gonna go down, man. I don't know. Is that a common thing?
I don't know, but
Obviously
he
not.
did it. He did it. He does a lot of
He
more.
might have
I mean, we can
pioneered
definitely
that.
have a conversation about it. He does a lot more interesting things than that, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
I've been hearing heavy equipment rentals or
Hmm.
leasing options, like
Oh,
just a
Yep, you can pay
lot
your
of
taxes
different,
through it.
right. And those
right?
are the things that we're
Yeah.
we want to educate folks about. Crystal and I is the note investments, taking those note investments to pay down regular, and this is a little bit different. These are to acquire items, but taking down these assets to pay for your liabilities, like your bills
Hmm.
and your phone payment, your phone bills and things like that. I think, listen, now more than ever, you have to get more savvy. You have to be smarter. You have to find these
Yeah,
hacks in money because they are out there. Remember, we talked about it earlier. They're just hiding them. But now, we have to go out and search them. You got to make your money last longer, and you got to be smarter, right? Um,
yeah,
one thing I love about Sika, and especially the group you're working with, is you help people, right? Really, it is about people. I mean, business is about people. It's about people, and I know, you lead with helping people. Can you give me some, just some stories or some background on when you've helped just the regular person introduce them to these strategies and what they've made from them, and also just we talked about some of the investors in the past, but just someone that you gave them these tools and what they did with them, and changed their life or whatever, some type of story that you can share with us.
yeah. So, awesome. So, one of our guys, he actually ended up joining the business as well, but his problem was, okay, he has all these different businesses. He's trying to figure out a way to pay less in taxes with the income that he's making. Um, and so, with one of his businesses, there's a strategy called the executive bonus plan.
Okay.
It's super simple. All you do as a business owner is you purchase a life insurance policy through the business on an executive who's in the business.
Right. Okay.
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 Now, this allows for you to be able to, in the business, write off that expense off on taxes. Right. Now, the life insurance policy plan that you have is obviously going to be one that earns cash value. And so now, not only have you been able to reduce your taxes within the business, but now because you've purchased a life insurance policy on your executive, in his case, it was on his father, who's has an executive role within his business. Now they're able to earn cash value. So they're not only reducing their expenses, but they're also increasing their income.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
probably was a game changer for his business, right? And
Yeah. No.
also
100%.
he's doing.
100%
Crystal, you
for
want
his
to add
dad
this?
too.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, for his dad too. That was one of those interesting conversations. I actually love those type of conversations because that talks about legacy. That's my biggest
Yes.
when we're talking about leading with helping people, that's kind of how I lead. Like, what's your legacy? What's your legacy plan? Like, what's your next?
And
So for
Absolutely.
him, that's pretty much what it was. It's like, hey, did you know that you could start your own family bank? Did you know that you roll all this up into a trust and you can become the Rockefellers at this
Yes.
point? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So yeah, that's literally what that conversation was, and his eyes lit up because he had just. It was funny. He was like, "Man, Sika, I just finished reading Robert Kiyosaki's book, and somebody told me to read it 10 years ago. I wish I had read it 10 years ago." So yeah, it was an
Yeah.
interesting conversation.
I love that. I love that. That's our whole core values of helping others secure that passive income to help build that legacy with what we're doing, because we're in a season right now on both sides of the family. We're caretakers, and
Mm.
so we're seeing where, man, it's hard, and if there's not a financial plan set in place,
Oh yeah,
it's a mess. We're kind of walking through that right now from when my father-in-law recently passed, and so it's just one of those things of then helping others weather that storm, because it's not a matter of if, it's we
right.
know those things are going to happen, right? But then setting that up for your children and your children's children. And who was it? You have the Rockefellers and the
Vanderbilts.
Vanderbilts.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, they're the ones that, I mean, they had a ton of money, but what was it? After so many generations, they didn't have things set up, and so it dwindled. It was gone. But the Rockefellers, I mean, look, it's
Everybody's
just
still talking
legacy,
about him. Yeah.
right?
Everybody's still talking about him.
We're still buying books about them, okay?
Exactly.
I mean, like,
Exactly.
it's
And
crazy.
that's what it is about. I'm inspired by that. It's like, they say, if you didn't come from a rich family, make for a rich family comes from you, right? If they didn't bring you, if they didn't leave you a legacy, or your family, make sure that legacy comes from you, right? I was in the Tulsa Hard Rock, right, and it inspired me. They had Muhammad Ali's grandson on the wall. He had his first fight, and he was commemorated, right? Think about that man set that legacy up of the change in the world that he did, just being his grandson. And now he's a boxer too, but just being his grandson, you're on the wall, right? It's those type of things. But what we're talking about here is, if you set these foundational tools like you're doing for your son, and I know my cousin who first told me about Power of Zero, he's got policies on all his kids and things he's done. You're setting up that foundation, even with the notes that we're talking about, Crystal. You're the legacy. When you lead this foundation, that rich family will come from you, even if you didn't come from one. That legacy will come from you, even if you didn't really come from one, right? And so I want to lead and finish off with, you invited me to an event Saturday. And let me tell you, Crystal, listen, I haven't been in a room with this much energy. I thought I was at, like, Yankee Stadium, okay? I'm serious, okay? And I'm a hype guy. I play basketball, and I'm telling you, all right? So I went to this office in Dallas. Sika, I was a guest of Sika. I want you to really talk about the culture there at the PHP and Max Life, and I really want you to, this has been a very insightful pod here, but I want you to really set the stage and close us out with some closing remarks. Talk to me about that energy in PHP and Max Life, and the help that you do with others. And first, tell us what PHP even stands for.
Yeah, so PHP stands for People Helping People. Our founder, Patrick Bet-David, is the currently minority owner of the Yankees. He's the one who founded it. Immigrant from Iran. He is what it looks like to actually pursue the American dream. His core value, and the reason why he even started this whole thing, or at least one of the reasons, is to, it sounds cliche, but it's real, to save America. He's really bent on bringing the entrepreneurial spirit back to American families. And he has the number one channel on entrepreneurship. It's called Valuetainment. So he leads from the front when it comes to that. Because of that, the energy that we have in our office is crazy. So, it's high intense, it's competitive. Everybody wants everybody to win. A lot of excitement, a lot of, I'll put it like this. I talk to people oftentimes when I'm either introducing them to the business or just asking what their goals are. Most people are out in the sea by themselves, right? It's just it is what it is, and as a result, you have people who are good and some people who are just okay. Then you have people who are great. The people who are great are only great because of proximity. And by that, what I mean is that they have at least 5 to 10 people around them who are high performers, who are able to give them the energy that they need to be able to say, I'm going to get up today and I'm going to be great. Right.
Yeah.
That's what our culture
so
inspires. It's like, hey, if you're going to be, especially if you're part of our agency, like, you're not going to be here and be average. It's just not going to happen. You can choose to be, but you're not going to be one of us. You get what I'm saying? And most people just can't help not be average when you're around us, because again, we all want people to win. My personal platform is not built on life insurance. That's just the vehicle that I use to help people win.
Sure.
My personal platform is built on getting out of the world what you earn. That's what it all boils down to. And giving people the ability to know that you can that you can earn, and you can maximize your potential. I'm gonna leave with this. Um, One of my favorite questions I like to ask people is, what's what's your next 5 years look like? What does that version of you look like? I asked one of my really good mentors. He's one of my favorite people I've ever met. But he's a multimillionaire, and you wouldn't know it. But he's set for life. And every time I go to his house, he makes me feel small because he's like, Sika, I got this $1 million project going on. I got this. And I'm like, man, you could have been brought me into one of these. I just want a piece. I just want a piece. But so I asked him I'm like, man, what keeps you going? Like, what's your next 5 moves? I don't understand. Why do you keep? Because he's like in his 70s, like, or he's about to be at least. I'm like, why are you still,
Wow.
kicking like the way that you are? Because he seems young. He goes, one guy told me I'll never be a millionaire. He said I didn't like that. So now I just
Wow.
So he said, now I just live my life going as hard as I can, as far as I can, just to see how far I can go with my potential.
Wow.
And that's what I want to bring to people.
I love that.
Love that.
Wow.
Love that.
That's huge. And think of also that has changed the trajectory of his life too.
Just having the mindset. Man,
crazy.
I love the proximity piece. The energy in that room. Oh man, it was something else. It really was. Listen, Sika,
When do I get to check this out? I'm gonna
We'll
have to
bring
check
you
out
You
over.
this
can come out
energy.
this Saturday.
Yeah,
You can come out this Saturday. I want to meet you in person anyway, so you might as well come to the office, meet the team, meet
I'm gonna
everybody.
have to do it.
We
We're
can
gonna
have
have
a
to do it,
conversation afterwards.
Crystal.
Yeah.
You gotta feel
For
it. I mean,
sure.
we're core there. And listen, we gotta do a follow up in one of those podcast rooms. I saw them.
Yeah.
They're real nice. We gotta
Yeah,
get
no,
in
we're
those
gonna definitely use
podcast rooms.
Curtis's podcast room next time. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah,
have to
I've
do
got a
it.
lot of questions too, and this could be for another time, but just I want to go deeper into this, more details, because this stuff is this is a newer concept for us too, and we're just wanting to glean and eat it up as much as we can.
I think just like the notes that me and Crystal are really focused on projecting education around. I think these concepts we can't do in a 30-minute pod, right?
Yeah, no,
I think
100%.
it's something that right. I think it's something, but it's dropping the seed that someone that listens and takes a seed like, okay, where did this go? And I think we can continue to follow up on these things. Again, this is only episode 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can bring it back and we can
Right.
talk things and we can talk. We can get it on a granular level as well. You know what I'm saying? And get deeper into these strategies because I think there's such a big need to get them out there. So guys, I think we'll end it there.
Yeah.
I think
I do want to say one thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah, just finish up.
I will say this, that if you do want to learn more of these types of strategies, it's super simple. You can just DM me on Goods Be Spoken. We'll drop. I'll give it to Aneel, and he'll more than likely drop it. But it's Goods Be Spoken. That's my Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and of course, you can just contact Aneel or Crystal because, like they said, this is you're 100% right. You can't condense any of this in a 30-minute segment. You're just going to want more. The good thing is that our platform allows for you to get more and more every Tuesday and Saturday because we focus on building up entrepreneurs and making people the right types of people to talk about these policies.
No, listen,
nice.
man, I love that. I'm so happy me and Crystal can provide a platform to you. We'll continue to do that.
I appreciate you for having me. I love it.
Officer. You listen to our listeners. Listen, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Man, Sika strategies are really it's an amazing, dynamic, diverse way into finance and real estate investing. I think, like I said, we'll follow up on these. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the podcast, The Investors Corner. It's exclusively on Spotify right now. On my YouTube channel, we'll be expanding it a lot more. And I want to thank everyone for listening to The Investors Corner with Crystal and Aneel. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for being on. Yeah, loved it. Yeah, can't wait to meet in person.